The best of the Morning X with Barnes, Leslie, and Jimmy. 99X.
We have a man on the phone whose name is Mr. Robert Kupferschmid. You may have read about his story in the paper this morning. Very tragic story, which could have turned more tragic, but he really became a hero. Mr. Kupferschmid, who lives in, you live in Mount Comfort, Indiana?
Oh, no. I'm about 20 miles from my home.
So you live, where do you live?
In Fishers, Indiana.
Fishers, Indiana.
Yes.
And this was yesterday afternoon,
yes.
And you were with your friend, Mr. Wes Sickle.
Yes.
And I guess, was he was a private pilot?
Yes. He's flown, I guess, thousands of hours he'd flown.
And you've flown with him?
This is the first time I've flown with him.
So, at some point into the flight, can you tell us exactly what you saw or what happened?
Well, we were airborne about 5 minutes when he suddenly seemed to be gesturing, and he seemed to straighten up and get rigid, and then his head slumped forward, and that was it.
So his head slumped forward at the pilot seat.
Now you're in a small plane, a two-seater or four-seater?
It was a two-seater with dual controls in front, but it had two more seats just immediately behind it.
So you're sitting in front of the controls, but you've never flown?
No, I've never flown.
Did he have a heart attack?
I presume he did. They're doing an autopsy, I think, on him today, but...
We're sorry. That's very horrible.
We really, you have our sympathy, because I know he was a good friend of yours. So, Mr. Kupferschmid, when this happened, did the plane immediately start nosediving?
When I was trying to rouse him, and I noticed we were headed downward at a pretty steep angle, and I had to cease from my efforts to rouse him and bring the plane back up.
So
you pulled back on the I don't know what you call
throttle
it.
Or
you pulled back on the, I guess, I don't know what that's called either.
Steering wheel, like...
Well, it's not a wheel. They used to call them sticks, I guess.
Right, the stick.
And just because you had seen him do that,
yes.
you knew that would bring the plane up. And then, did you radio for help at that point, or what did you do?
Did you grab the headsets and put them on? How were you communicating?
I removed the headset from him and tried to position it on my own head, and then I used the mic to try and call for help, and I got response immediately because he had the radio tuned to the proper frequency.
Mm-hmm. And so, what did they say to you?
Well, they want to know where I was at. I said I didn't know where I was at.
Uh-huh.
But I thought by this time I was probably parallel to I-70 that goes east out of Indianapolis. So they said, well, we found you. And from then on, they instructed me what to do and had me look over the control panel and tell me which controls to arrange to manipulate.
God, there are so many buttons there, I wouldn't know what to do.
Well, I didn't.
And plus, you have a very dear friend of yours who you don't know if he's just passed out. You don't know if he has passed away, but you're certainly concerned. And then
I told him be sure and have an ambulance down there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been in a situation before to know how you would react? Because you
really.
never know if you're going to be calm or panic in this kind of a situation, what your body will do. What was going through your mind?
Well, I knew I was in trouble, but as soon as the people answered me on the radio, I felt a lot better about it because they began telling me what to do, and they guided me up to this Mount Comfort Airport, and then they had me make a couple of passes over the runway to make sure that I had the proper control of the plane, and I believe it was on the third pass that they had me cut my altitude to about 900 feet, and when we got over the runway, they had me cut the engine. It was a kind of a bumpy landing, but we got down, and like you say, any landing you walk away from is a good one.
Yeah, there's a picture of it in our local newspaper here this morning, Mr. Kupferschmid, and it shows that the nose of the plane had cracked on landing because
the forward steering, the forward landing gear had crumpled, I think, and that let the propeller get damaged.
That was very courageous of you to attempt this and to successfully do it. That's
I
got
had
to
no
be
choice. There wasn't any courage involved. It was a matter of survival.
right. You had to be just on another level. I mean, your mind had to be just. I can't even imagine.
Did you were you in the armed services when you were younger?
I spent about 3 years in the United States Navy during World War II.
So you've seen some tragic episodes yourself, and I'm sure you've seen you've been in hair-raising situations, but I'm guessing you never expected anything like this.
I was on an ammunition ship with 5,000 tons of ammunition bouncing around like a cork in water from bombs going off, and I don't know how much more hair-raising you can get than that.
Yeah. Well, you know, it is an amazing story, which I'm sure you can appreciate, and we're so glad that you're okay. Mr. Kupferschmid, who was flying in his plane yesterday afternoon, his friend, unfortunately, Mr. Sickle didn't make it, and he passed out at the stick, and Mr. Kupferschmid landed the plane. They instructed, just like they do in the movies, when they talk the guy down.
I don't know if I could do that. It's just amazing.
Yes, they just talked me down.
Thank you for sharing the story with us.
Beg your pardon?
Thank you for sharing the story with us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, how old? He's 81?
81 years old.
81. That is just an amazing story.
You know, and I've been in those small planes, and they don't...
And sitting in front of you with the controls in front of you like that, he said it was a dual-control plane. That's intimidating just sitting in front of you. You think you're going to hit something with your knee, and you're going to end up nose-diving.
See, they don't look to me that complicated to maneuver, but what's frightening
you've never
is
done
just
it before.
If you've never done, you're going so fast in
This is
this
not
little
a video game.
All of a sudden, you're landing the plane.
Can,
exactly.
And it's not a complicated thing to maneuver, but like one false move.
Well, there are so many gauges and things you have to make sure are this, that, and the other that it would seem to be, I mean, tough.
And plus, you know, factor in that here's an 81-year-old guy who probably his reflexes are not what they were, what they once were.
And then your friend's dead right next to you.
And your friend is dead right next to you.
In a small little compartment.
Wow. Amazing story.
Major.
The Morning X.